Wow, what a day. So we are finished the group stage of Worlds. And today was the marathonist of all the days so far. 9 games, high intensity for all of them. There wasn't like a letdown game that I could, just not really pay attention to. There wasn't one where like my emotions weren't involved to some extent. Uh, and I'm just sitting here watching and like writing and talking about it a little bit. So I can't imagine what it was like for the players, for the teams, everybody on there and the staff, or for the broadcast crew or any of that. So exhausting. Worlds has been exhausting so far, but big day. I'd say a good day, depending on your fandom. If you're an LPL fan, of course you're going to be sad with the outcome, but I think LCS fans or Team Liquid fans can feel okay about it. This wasn't one where there were meaningless games and they were knocked out a game or two early. Obviously, they failed to advance, and it was a winnable group, or at least a group that they could have gotten out of. But they put up, I think, a pretty good showing. They played in a respectable way, and put it all out there, and it just wasn't quite enough. So, yeah, I think the takeaways from Team Liquid can be pretty positive. The main thing that I wrote about, if you want to check out kind of the game individual game summaries and team compositions and my written takeaways and all that, it's up on oracleselixir.com. But the main thing I wrote about was the 3 mid laners, so I thought really stood out today. And obviously, Icon had a bad day, but I thought Jensen was really a driving force for Team Liquid. He had 3 really solid games. And yeah, I mean, maybe even 4. I don't remember all 4 of them specifically, but yeah, I thought he had like the Baron steal. He had some really big picks and long range stuns on Syndra. He had a strong LeBlanc game. And I think for Jensen, especially in a year where I think I've been fairly critical of him this year, I've had not so many praiseworthy things to say. I thought that for a long time he was top 2 mid laner in North America, and this year he was more like in that 4th, 5th range. He was starting to get outpaced by some of the other players coming into the league, and for him to come to Worlds and have this kind of showing, where he was, I would say, the best player on his team today, and nearly kind of willed them over the finish line, or the finish line of group stage at least, over that hurdle they were trying to get past. That says a lot, and I think is a huge deal for him and potentially for his offseason. Like, you never know with these teams that went to Worlds what they're planning to do in the offseason and how much of that is influenced by what happens at Worlds. Possibly he's played himself into another year on Team Liquid. I'm not saying that I have information that he was planning to get, that they're planning to replace him or anything like that, but if I was in their position, I saw the way he played domestically, I'd say, maybe it's time to look at other options and at least see what's out there, right, before we decide what to do. But if you think he can continue to play at this level, then you run with that for sure. As a domestic mid laner with so much staying power as a brand and all that kind of stuff, and still like he showed today, a very high level of possible play. And maybe you say that we can get more out of him domestically with other changes we're going to make around him. So big props to Jensen for what he showed up. Obviously, BDD was huge, all group stage long, candidate for best player of the group stage. People talk up Chovy and how important he is to Hanwha. I think BDD played that level of importance for Gen.G in this group stage. His Zoe game was just terrifying. All the long range, bubbles and everything that he hit. He also had, big Syndra plays and all that kind of stuff. So, BDD was great, and he's another player who was, a few years ago, he was the next big thing in Korean mid laners. I mean, maybe even several years ago at this point, I don't even remember. But had kind of lost that throne to the Chovy and the Showmaker. But he came out and really put his stamp on this group stage so far, and is going to be really crucial for them in the next part. And then Humanoid, I thought also, was good today. Not as consistently good as the other two. But, especially there were some moments on LeBlanc that I thought he had really good team fighting and positioning and flashing out of certain things and poking in and out. And I think he's also had some down moments and maybe some points where you start to wonder, like, is he still kind of at the very top of the LEC mid lane kind of talent pool, or But today in this group stage, I think he had some really strong stuff, and the Mad Lions getting through to the next stage, I think, has a lot to do with him. So those three mid laners, all very praiseworthy. Glad to see what they were able to bring out. Looking at the group stage draw, which is obviously the bracket draw. That's the other really big thing, right? So we ended up with, let me make sure I get this exactly right. I'm not relying on my memory because it has been a very long day. Man, I get 3 days in a row of waking up at a normal time after this. This is going to be amazing. So we have, on the one side of the bracket, RNG against EDG and Gen.G against Cloud9. So the GGG teams against C9. Only 2 LPL teams in the quarterfinals, and they're going to have only one of them advancing, obviously. So there'll only be one LPL team in the semifinals. When I think a lot of people would have looked at this and said, a lot of people were saying, hey, EDG, FPX, RNG are all candidates to win. And you could have had a 3 LPL team semifinals. So that's really worked out very interestingly. And then the draw means that only one of them will advance. So either Gen.G or Cloud9 will go up against them. I'm thinking EDG will get more predictions to win, but and I'm leaning that way as well, but I'll do a little more thinking about it and go back over my notes and so on, decide before I have to put in my official pick'ems predictions and try to redeem my terrible group stage pick'ems. Gen.G is winnable for Cloud9. I'd say Gen.G are still the favorites, but they were on the draw show, they were really over pressing, I think, on, everybody wants to play against Gen.G, but it's true, right? This is the opponent you wanted to face. And even more importantly, I would say dodging Damwon means if you can get past Gen.G, you don't have to play against Damwon. Which at Cloud9 we're always going to dodge Damwon, but you could say for EDG and RNG, it's probably more important to them. Dodging Damwon means they're either going to face Gen.G or Cloud9. They were going to feel like both of them should probably feel like they're favored against either of those opponents. So the highest likelihood is we will have an LPL team in the finals, and EDG is very much still a candidate to win the whole thing. I think they might end up looking quite different in the best of fives than they did in the best of ones. T1 favorites over HLE. HLE have gotten better. They've grown on me a little bit, but not that much. I still think they're going to go out pretty easily, although the domestic familiarity in a matchup like this can always warp the outcome a little bit compared to what we've been seeing against the international opponents. And then Damwon Mad, if there's any of these second seed or second place teams, so EDG, Cloud9, Hanwha, Mad, EDG do feel like they're definitely a candidate, but of the other three, if any of them are going to have a chance to take on Damwon, I think Mad Lions are probably it, right? The tenacity they've showed, the ability to fight back from a deficit, never giving up, ironically, not even on the same side as RNG, but they're the team that embodies, I think, that never giving up mindset, and a lot of teams do, and I've always shouted that out and respected that among other teams, and I talk about it domestically a lot, but yeah, I think Mad Lions have a shot. They're going to have to roll the right numbers a few times, but it could happen. And if it does, man, that'll really shake things up. But I think the most likely scenario, if I'm going on my gut, is a Damwon EDG finals. And at this point, a bit of a toss-up on who's going to win it from there. Damwon will probably be slightly favored in the average perception on that, and I'm not really ready to go against that average at this point. So yeah, big day. Looking really forward to having 3 days off. Bad day for fantasy. Let's not talk about it. But I think the groups ended up pretty unpredictable this year in the way some of that stuff played out. With C9 getting through, obviously, was a big deal. The 4-way tie in this group was a big deal and hard to predict. Yeah. What else is there to say? Looking forward to quarterfinals. Looking forward to the best of fives, which are, I would say, the best part of Worlds, the best part of any competitive format. I love seeing best of fives. So really looking forward to that, and put some official pick'ems in, update people a little bit, maybe on Twitter later, about how the official Oracle's Elixir pick'ems leaderboard is going, because I invited a bunch of people to join that, and I'm going to give out a $20 RP prize. So we'll see how that's going. I'm not going to win it. I know that for sure. I was terrible, but yeah, we'll have some fun with it anyways. And it's a pretty pretty competitive, I think, near the top of that. So yeah, that's all I got. Very, very long day. And in a very, very long set of days for group stage. What was this? Seven competition days out of 8, and waking up at 3:30 for each of them. Yeah, I need to go to bed, so I'm going to sign off. Thanks for watching.